Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. Happy New Year. I have with me in the studio a young person, Onize Ohikere. Onize, you're welcome.
Thank you, Father.
Onize is the Africa correspondent of World News Group. World News Group. It's an American magazine.
Yes, Father.
And you are correspondent for Africa.
Yes.
So you are supposed to be traveling all over Africa, getting
Everywhere.
news and so on.
Whatever is needed, anywhere.
But for almost 1 year now, you have not been able to travel.
No, I've been doing it remotely. So interviews on Zoom or WhatsApp, just anything to keep it going.
So you are getting things from South Africa even now?
Even now, yes.
Egypt?
Egypt. Well, I've not made any contact there recently, but South Africa, trying to think of other countries. Kenya as well, Ethiopia, Mozambique, wherever there is an issue or
Wherever
a
there's
story.
an issue.
Yes,
And there's been a lot of stories from Nigeria, unfortunately.
yes.
And most of them are not very positive stories.
No. So it's even more work now to still try, as much as we're telling of all the attacks and, getting people up to date, to still search even harder for
To
the
look
positive.
for good news.
Still have to look for it. People trying to make a difference regardless of
Yeah,
the
look for
negative.
good news. Like Father George is very healthy.
Wonderful
You know,
good
I
news.
mean, that Father George is very healthy in spite of COVID-19 and
Yes,
that I'm
Father.
doing very well.
Headline.
Headline news.
Headline.
Wonderful. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Once again, we are to discuss 2021. We are happy that we are alive to see a new year, 2021. But our country has had many challenges. We are entering this 2021 full of anxieties and fears and worries. Economy is going down, and there is no prospect for an immediate revamping of the economy. We have just brought out a budget for 2021, about 13 point something trillion, 3 point what of which is just to service debt, sadly. And less than 25% of this is for capital expenditure. And that budget is a deficit budget, meaning that we are going to have to take loans to service that budget. To the extent that state governments are asking to borrow pension money. And now we are going to, people who have their monies in pension funds are scared, are afraid that perhaps when they need their money, they won't get it because state governments are borrowing. That's in the economy. The Naira is continues to go down, to fall in value. And there's widespread insecurity all over the country, particularly in northern Nigeria. These places that used to be middle belt are a food basket of the nation. People may be afraid to go to farm. So even food security is in peril. And then governance. We have issues, serious issues with governance. Our civic space appears to be closing. In October 2020, young people came out and protested nationwide against NSAS, which was a metaphor for against bad governance, against corruption, for better governance, for better Nigeria. But that peaceful protest was crushed. What I have seen in recent times is that many young people got demoralized after the crushing of the NSAS, and many people just think that their future is in going out of Nigeria. I began to hear something called IELTS.
Yes, Father. It's one of the certifying exams, or one of the first steps people will have to do. So if you didn't get your first degree from Canada or US, you have to go through that test to make sure that
like TOEFL and
yeah, exactly. To make sure your English is.
I began to hear about IELTS. I said, what is this? Young people are in droves
Everywhere.
trying to do this exam because it's like there is no hope in Nigeria for their future. And I feel quite bad about this. So I brought you to the studio. You might be able to help us. What are the prospects for young people believing in this country, settling in this country, using their creative energies to transform this country and raise their young families in this country? What do you think?
I think for me, when I was thinking through all of this, it's the one phrase I could summarize it in is it requires a lot of, I see it as requiring a lot of moral courage.
Moral courage.
From a lot of us, like a lot of the young people, because it's like you're saying, there are many people. I was telling you earlier, I spoke with a friend and she said she was asking what my plans are for leaving Nigeria, and she said for her, she's not doing it for herself, she's doing it for her future children. And so for someone who has reached that level of almost despair in the country, like, where do you want to start talking to her to, you know, reconsider? And so for me, it's like, it requires us to sort of look in and see that if we all leave, then the problem will remain. So if you have I feel like if you have a genuine love for yourself and your neighbor beyond yourself, because you can escape, you know, and it's mostly people who have had opportunity or more privilege sometimes that can leave. Some who have had the chance of better jobs, so they find it easier to move because they have more points through the process, or they've worked they've found their way into good companies in Nigeria, so it makes it easy for them when they're applying elsewhere.
So it is even the best people,
people
who are even well placed, who have jobs that have more chances.
Most times, yes, most times. So it's a case that if you are doing that, you are covered. But what about the man next door, the person who's been your neighbor for 5 years, who did not even, you know, maybe took like 6 years to complete his degree in one federal technical university or something? Like, what happens to him? So for me, it requires us to sit back and realize that this problem will not go anywhere.
It requires a lot of moral courage. And what you are saying now is, what about your sense of responsibility towards the multitude?
Because you can leave, but it would still be here. And it's the other thing too, where we realize that the truth is most Nigerians would rather be home than out.
Most Nigerians would rather be in Nigeria. Tell me about it. You were in America. You schooled in America.
I did. And even talking to a lot of friends, even the process, yes, like I think the only pull for people is the fact that you're in a country where the system is working. Because they are there and there's that awareness that, I mean, it's not your home. You know, even if you want to get work after university, there's a very rigorous process you have to go through. You have to fill a lot of forms, pray your certification comes in before you graduate. If it doesn't come in, you have your days ticking. If it reaches up to 90 days, you have to leave the country. So there's a lot of that pressure where you're reminded every day that
it's not
the system works, but you are not at the advantage. Whereas if it's your home country where all these things were working, you would not have to go through all that. And so you hear a lot of Nigerians say, and they'll tell you like, oh, I'm just here because things are better. You know, my children can go to school. And when they finish and they hold their degree, they can get a job. I'm working and I know that even if I've gotten my master's, I'm not earning 100,000 naira, you know. So it's that idea that people are just looking for things to be better. So if we can look in and try and again, I say moral courage because I'm not saying it's easy, you know, but if we can look in and try and recreate that in Nigeria, I feel like many people would choose to stay.
There's something that you have said which interests me, that a lot of Nigerians that are trooping out are thinking of themselves and their future children and are not necessarily thinking of the neighbor of others. And it strikes me that most of those, 90% of those who are going out are actually privileged Nigerians who are not the worst off in Nigeria.
Yes.
Children of the wealthy. People who can afford the ticket to Canada. People who can afford the lump sum they need to put in the account for some time.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw somebody who said that he needed $24,000 in the account, and that it has been there in the account for the past 1 or 1.5 years that he's been waiting. How many Nigerians can afford that? So the people going out are among our best. Among our best in terms of education. Most of those going to have master's degree.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, because it's an advantage if you have 2 degrees.
Yes.
And some of them are people who have good jobs. What have we done to our country?
I think for me, that's even what hurts because, like you said, these are people with masters who have good jobs. The reality is these are people who, if they stay back, what they can do here.
They are the ones that can fix Nigeria.
Exactly. And that's why, I mean, it didn't start this year or last year when, you know, Nigerians started complaining of brain drain. I remember it started with medical field when we realized a lot of Nigerian doctors are not in the country. And people started, you know, complaining that we're experiencing a major brain drain. And so it's that idea, like the truth is, as much as we talk about this, there have to be some form of incentives for people to stay. So it's that idea of, even if you're saying moral courage, it could come to the point where we create the opportunities, or those who are willing to see that change created.
There has to be incentive to encourage people to stay in Nigeria.
Yes.
I don't know. I hope the leaders are taking note of this, that a lot of our bright young people, the hope of the future of Nigeria, are living in droves. And begging to be admitted to the other countries. To some of them may need to begin by washing plates in restaurants first.
Before climbing back up.
Before climbing up. This is a very sad thing. But coming back to what hopes we have, what will you say are the silver lining amidst these dark clouds? When I see what happened in October with NSAS, it was very encouraging.
Yes.
And some of us remain encouraged by the creativity, the sophistication of our young people, the organization, the planning, the sense of responsibility for the future of Nigeria that inspired that movement. Is it dead and gone? Is it dead?
No, I think we still have it. It's like that period of reawakening. And for me, one thing that stood out was the cooperation between young Nigerians here and those outside. And for me, that was the one thing that blew my mind, because yes, some have left, but there are many that are still nostalgic. One of our family friends when I was in school told us that if he has his way, he will come back to Nigeria, and he's in his 50s or 60s. And so you have multiple people at different levels. So that whole idea of reawakening for me means there's still hope, both from Nigerians within and those who are outside. And so that creativity, I think, has to continue. So if it's the idea that, like one instance I was thinking of, since the NSAS protest, the whole concept of politeracy has gone up beyond what I think it's ever been. And, if we can be consistent the political level, pushing people to keeping that drive, to ensure that people get their PVCs. Many young people in the main cities, Abuja, Lagos, don't, because of the process. They'll tell you they'll rather work than go. That's one aspect of it. And I found out even a lot of initiatives have sprung up. One I came across, it's called the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, and they've set up, it's like a 6-month program.
That is Obieze
yes,
and her group
have set up politics.
School of Politics.
And
yes.
It's very research and on the ground. So you're seeing all these things coming up, and the hope is that fire, keeps burning to the point where not 2 years down the line or so, when people are going to vote and everyone forgets about it. So you see things like that, and initially, if they had happened a few years back, no one might have taken notice. Or it would have just been happening online, and some people wouldn't see that. So
let's get involved.
Exactly.
So our young people, the movement, the NSAS movement, generated a certain amount of let's get involved.
Yes.
Is that continuing in the background? Even though people are not on the streets, do you see that movement is still there in the background? I
think it is, but there's still room for more. Because the politics really is only one side of this. One of the points you mentioned earlier on was even the economical aspect of this, jobs. And I was thinking back to when people always say those who stand out are exceptions, but I feel more people can be the exception until the exception is the norm. Like people in Lagos, Andela, the young Nigerian who set up the tech company, and
yes,
to the point that I brought Mark Zuckerberg. There are many young Nigerians who have degrees in science and technology who are back here. If the same way when it came to time to protest, we all connected with our friends and networks who are still abroad, why don't we do the same thing in the fields that we're passionate about? Why don't we, if it's science and tech, set up those connections and create something that, gives people jobs and improves what is normal? If it's in media, for instance, can we have those stronger connections and better networks to train people more? If it's in education, I even have a friend she's in science and tech, working with a big company in the US. Over the summer, she will come back home and train people. So if more of us collaborate, can we have a wider reach in that area? These are just some of the several sectors. I think things like that can happen if we keep those connections. So if the communication among the young people continue, we can see that happening even more.
We need, in an earlier segment of this program, Bishe was here and he talked about how do we de-government. How do we reduce government in the consciousness of Nigerians? How do we boost a situation where individuals and groups can flourish, set up businesses, flourish with minimal involvement of government? Because government is too large in this country.
Yes.
And then he said, well, the other dilemma is that government interferes too much. And people are not able to flourish because taxes here and taxes there, and and capable of discouraging individual initiatives. With technology, with modern digital technology, are there ways of this flourishing, what I'm talking about, young people flourishing, in spite of bad governance, in spite of inefficiency in the sector, the official sectors that are supposed to facilitate this growth?
I think so. And again, I'll fall back to the whole idea of the power of the community. I'm thinking of one of the women networks I know of. I can't remember the name, but a network of women entrepreneurs who come together, and the whole idea is to empower each other. Yes, you know, they will do the usual Nigerian trainings here and there, but one core thing I found interesting in what they do is when they come together, they have people from different levels. So those who are just starting off, those who are higher placed, and so when some who are higher placed come together with those who are, you know, lower than them, and they get to see the problems of each other, it almost creates this pressure that was not there to do something, because you're meeting with these women once a month or once in 2 weeks. It's not a case of, you know, you're forgetting your neighbor because you don't see him every day. You're becoming aware of these people's problems, and it increases that pressure to find a way. That's why you now find out some of these groups create a channel. Okay, let's say tax process is giving you problems. We'll go and talk to them and find a way to simplify it for you. So there are those opportunities that, and the other aspect of it is the reality that, you know, when you're within something that is difficult, it's hard to look at opportunities beyond. The Nigerian government is difficult, but there was a time where World Bank was giving people grants, and not just loans, grants. So when you come together as a community, you're bringing different people that have awareness of different opportunities. I know people that have been able to sort of boost their business without government loans because they found other resources even beyond Nigeria. And so when you gather people together, you're on one hand bringing your expertise and opportunities within the country, but also bringing opportunities. Linking.
Well, when you think about how the NSAS protest was financed,
exactly.
When you think of the GoFundMe and other opportunities that you can get support globally. That's why I'm saying, can technology help the young people of this country to move this country forward in spite of inefficient governance?
Yes. The same, like you said, the same way we saw, and that's the thing, once it's a good idea and there's a lot of transparency, people are willing to back initiatives. And that was what the amount of money that NSAS raised was amazing. And even the idea of, you know, seeing a woman hawking and they post the picture, and you realize that empathy we have is still there. It's just gone dormant. People see the lady, and before you know, by the end of the day, they've raised up to ₦1 million for her. Which Nigerian would have ever, no one would have believed that was possible. And so it's like, once we can come together, there's that transparency. I believe it's possible. I believe people would still use technology. And for me, the key thing is transparency, because that's one of the major problems.
I mean, the problem of corruption, massive corruption we have in this country, many people believe that digital technology can help overcome it to a reasonable extent.
Yes.
The problem of inefficiency in governance, people believe that with digital technology, we can overcome a major part of it. The problem of political illiteracy, the need to raise people's political awareness, civic responsibilities, taking responsibility for the future of our society, digital technology can help.
Exactly.
So in all these areas, young people are in the driving seat. They are the digital age. So I have limited ideas as to how those can happen, but I believe that young people can come up with ideas so that we don't just sit down and lament bad governance, lament corruption, lament COVID-19 and so on and so forth, and our society is going down and down and down. Can we say, young people, take over your country and do something about making it better?
Exactly. I think it is one instance too, you know, looking back again at the protest, when people realized it was gathering steam, a group, you know, got up and made flyers, translated it to Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, so that when the guy in the village who is hearing news about it can see it and know what's going on. And so I think it's, again, for me, it's that idea of pulling resources together. When it's one person, it feels overwhelming. But when you come together, you realize that it takes, and it's online, it takes limited amount of time to design these things and put it up there. So I still believe that pull factor of community coming together would really help.
What about, this is some wild idea, what about some kind of online parliament? Whereby young people can set up, there's nothing, we have freedom of assembly. Some kind of online parliament where they are discussing serious issues of national development on the side, and then making recommendations to the powers that be. Some kind of town hall, online parliament, getting people from across this country with support from those in diaspora. So the kind of issues that generated NSAS movement and that sustained the success for 12 days, those kind of issues happening not on the streets, but online.
I think that would help. The one catch I think in that would be to ensure that among the people who are leading or who are the core members are some who are able to ensure that what you discuss would, come into fruition or actually
we'll reach somewhere.
We'll reach somewhere, because I think a lot of part of that despair is that idea of, we've been talking about this. Every gathering you go to, this is our country now. So there's almost that exhaustion with discussing. But once people, again, we answers, once you realize that you are talking, you are raising your voice and change is happening.
I am actually not talking about, because yes, our experience is that we have been talking. Even on this program, we have been talking. But I'm saying, can we do things in spite of government?
Yes, yeah.
Can we do things in this society? I mean, we are used to a certain way of doing things. To do this, set up this business, you need this government permit, you need this government, this, you need this, and then you are frustrated. Can we find digital ways of doing the same thing? I mean, Elon Musk has risen to become one of the richest people in the world by deciding to, okay, there is this challenge. How do I approach it to get things done without passing through this? How can I find a way of doing it? And I'm saying, young people, you are people of the digital age. We have bad governance. Find a way of getting things done in this society without this constricting structures of government that you can succeed in getting society running.
I think so, and the advantage of that is it would even if it's effective, it would increase pressure on the government, because online you have a larger viewership of what's going on.
You render the inefficient government irrelevant
and open to the whole world. Because one instance of, and I think why a town hall will be good is because, again, people across different fields. So, and again, once people start talking and realize there's another Nigerian who has this wild ideas like me, we can team up and do something. One instance in Hong Kong, when they were protesting and they realized that the police was tracking them everywhere, some designers got up and, based on the country's map, created a chart. So they knew, areas to avoid. I'm bringing this up because like our country, for instance, we have bad roads. We will lament the government is not fixing it. Like you're saying, are there ways, yes, we can't go and build the road because that would become a court case. But are there ways you can ensure or even improve traveler safety?
Yes.
By some sort of
by some technological means,
or like making it clear, like this is a hotspot right now. There's a robbery going on here. Take route X. Things like that are possible.
I mean, today you can literally, using GPS and other kinds of technology, you can do tracking.
You can track, yes.
You can do tracking. So all this, I am surprised that the security agencies are telling us in the 21st century, in 2021, that they don't know where the bandits are staying. Yeah. Because if you go to Pentagon, I'm sure the people in Pentagon are seeing figures moving. So when the 344 students of Kankara were captured, abducted, I am sure in Pentagon they have equipment that they can actually locate this crowd of people in the exact spot. So with technology,
it's possible.
These things are possible, and I'm saying let the young people take it over. And if we hear that 344 students have been captured, let the young people design something that they are able to say, these people are 20 nautical miles from here, this number of miles from here, that is where these young people are. Go after them.
There's a group, I don't remember their name, but even I follow their thread on Twitter, And what they've taken upon themselves now is to go around in not the major rural areas, go in, figure out all the government projects that have been abandoned, and they post and share these things. And I started thinking, looking at that, it even helps me with work ideas, because I realized if I'm here in one rural village in Bayelsa, I will never hear of a project that was never completed. So when they do that, they go and track the funds were allocated at so time. This is now 2 years later. This is what is here. It's all over the internet. If with the right hashtags it trends, it increases the pressure on that governor, and he has to account for what, the problem.
Accountability becomes easier when we have tracking mechanisms.
Exactly.
So, a last word of hope. What hope to give the young people, so that I am not saying people should not go out. Let it not be the only option that young people have, just to go out, because not every Nigerian will succeed in going out. There are 200 million Nigerians. Which country will take 1 million, not to talk of 200 million? So what hope do you have for other young people to say, look, if we can only invest and work hard with discipline and are committed, we can make this country the envy of the world in one generation?
Yes. I think the main thing I would say is it seems easier to find a way out and leave the problem as it is. But the reality is, for the next decades, and as you continue to watch yourself, your family, your friends and neighbors, people would still suffer through that system. Even if you are removed from it personally, you will continue to hear the laments of others.
Look, whenever I travel to the US or to Europe, the Nigerians in the diaspora are the more passionate about our issues.
Exactly.
Meaning it is not easy to escape that problem and think that you can't
separate.
Close your mind away from it.
You can't.
So even when you are enjoying your good salary in Canada, your people are here suffering.
And you're getting the calls, the messages. So instead of just, personal investment, this is our reality. I think for me, that's the first thing. It is our reality. Once you accept that, you realize that you have to do something about it. And for me, I think the thing I would say is, when you look at it as this huge problem, it's easy to lose hope. So instead, take it step by step.
Take one little aspect.
Find what you're passionate about. Just take that aspect and start working. As you're doing it, your network grows. You find more people.
On this note, we'll bring this program to an end. I have been speaking with Onize Ohikere. She is the Africa correspondent of World News Group. She says, don't look at the omnibus problem. Take the problem, look at what area you are passionate about and what your expertise is. Attack that area. You attack that area in union with others who are also passionate about that area. Link up with them. Link up with those here. Link up with those outside the country, and we will be getting somewhere.
Yes, Father.
That's a very hopeful one. God bless you. And Happy New Year once again.
Same to you, Father.
Thanks, Onize.